Yeah, so let's move it on to the last story of the night, and this is one that, yeah, I kind of saw this coming a long time ago. I think everybody did, but it's that Xbox has recently dropped the mandatory Kinect bundle. So now you can buy the Xbox One by itself without the Kinect bundled in, and that actually drops it of $100 from 500 to 400. Now this was something that when they announced that they were going to do it, everybody hated it. I mean, everybody hated it. I hated it. Brendan, did you hate it?
I did not hate that they were going to do
Oh,
it,
you should have hated it.
but like, why do I care? Like, whatever. They can
That's
drop
right.
it. The
You
great
don't buy
thing
it.
though, the thing that I thought was interesting about it is I think that was one of the things that they originally said could not be done.
Yeah.
Like, there's been multiple things that remember when they originally announced the Xbox, and then Sony came out and like just tore them to shreds with how they weren't doing the kinds of restrictions that Xbox were done. That was one of the things that they said, oh well, we can't remove the requirement to have the Kinect always connected. You
Yeah,
know,
and we
they
can't
said that
remove the requirement that you pay $10 if you borrow this game from your friend. I
they
mean,
couldn't remove the always on and all
yeah,
these things like, and apparently they could.
yeah,
They've been doing it, partially probably because they see that they're not selling as well as the PS4, because of these reasons. And clearly they always had that ability. Like, that was always like, how could you not be able to disable these features? This is clearly not a hardware requirement.
and I don't believe the Kinect is like physically built into the system, so I believe you still have to plug it in. So if you can unplug it, I mean, really, really, really.
Exactly. Like, I understand that you may have designed your UI around using that system, but you can easily enough. Like, it's not like it was required to use motion controls. I've seen people. I haven't played the Xbox One yet, but I've seen people in reviews do it. They use a controller.
Yeah.
So,
So, yeah, and now if I am an Xbox 360 owner, and I thoroughly enjoy the Xbox 360. I believe what it offered. And now this is up for debate, but again, I have the system, so I think it offered more that integrating entertainment system into video game system than PlayStation 3 did. But when you look at the next generation system, Xbox One is trying to take it a step further and make it more of an entertainment system and less of a game system, and I think they've taken it too far. Um,
I think what they're really trying to do is they want it to be a another extension of Windows, but geared more towards your living room, geared more towards a bit more towards games. Um, Whether that's going to work out for them, we'll see. I know a lot of people still don't care about the lower price. The people that would have otherwise cared about the lower price still don't care because they don't like the UI, which is the
yeah,
same as the rest
and
of Windows right now.
I haven't jumped into the next gen quite yet, but when I do, I will be getting a PS4. I mean, just because all those things that we were talking about that Xbox said couldn't be taken off, and then suddenly were taken off, I can see just as easily being put right back on. Nobody reads through those user agreements, and I'm sure it's stuck in there somewhere. We might decide to mandate this later in the future, and that scares me. I mean, I just don't want them to have that much control over everything I do. And yeah,
Definitely, and after the setback that they had from the original announcement, it really seems like this initial push is going to help the PS4 in every way because there's greater sales on the PS4, which means more developers are going to target the PS4. If as long as Microsoft's not actively paying them to do otherwise, PS4 is getting more stuff, and PS4 now is going to get some really cool features after the fact, like Project Morpheus. Like,
hmm
that alone is will be a big seller when that comes out because that's the immersive experience that we're looking for, as long as it delivers what we expect.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, it has to be good. We haven't played it yet, so But
yeah,
there's one other aspect of this story I kind of wanted to look at, and that's, since Xbox said, everybody's going to get a Connect with their Xbox, you had a lot of developers devote a lot of resources to the Kinect capabilities, because if it's going to be mandated, if you're going to have an Xbox One exclusive, you have to have some sort of Kinect thing with it, right? I mean, that just makes sense. It's like after everybody could connect their systems online and play multiplayer, every game had multiplayer, even games you wouldn't expect. Like Assassin's Creed games had a multiplayer, and a lot of people really loved it. So you had these developers that had to devote these resources and develop these teams to making these Kinect games that are actually dropping people. And one of the big ones is actually the Microsoft-owned studio, Rare, has dropped 16 people because they don't need to have them anymore to make Kinect games.
Yeah, that's a crazy, crazy number right there. And
16 is not that crazy of a number.
well, how big is the studio?
Actually, you're right. That might be a third of the studio. So that is no, I take it back. That is a crazy number. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've known big studios that didn't even have that number main people total. So,
Yeah.
I mean, bigger ones have stuff. But also with this, it wasn't the worst idea to have the Kinect as a built-in device or one that was bundled in, because historically you do see in the video game market that peripherals that are not built in suffer greatly. The Zapper gun for Nintendo, it took off great because it was bundled in with a lot of the systems. Like there were models that were not bundled in, but it was bundled in with the system. Even still, though, it wasn't used for that many
But
games, but
even
it was
then,
successful.
it didn't add an extra $100 to the price, or I mean, even equivalently back in the '80s when the Nintendo originally came out, it didn't add that much to the price for something that a lot of people just don't like. I mean, and then a Kinect. I mean, that's something that can look back at you. And with hackers nowadays, they can hack into stuff like that, and they can look right back at you. I just think it's something that if you like, you should have the choice, and if you don't, I think the move they made was a better move. And I'm sorry if the peripheral gets, hurt about it, but, I think it's more like you pick and choose what you want to do. And if you
Yeah,
can't make good
exactly.
games for it, then hey, it's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And you at least don't make it a requirement. Like you said, not why is it a requirement? I understand that it's a built-in thing, and that'll encourage developers to develop something for it because it exists, because everyone has it, even if they not don't have to have it plugged in all the time, or at least a lot of people have it. Unlike the the PlayStation Move, which did terribly because one, it was released obviously as a response to the success of the Wii motion controls, and even though by all accounts that I've heard, it did it better. This was so late in the game that they released it, and two, it was a optional peripheral that you had to pay an extra at least $70 to get a decent set of it. Um, and so it didn't really encourage developers to one. People were discouraged by the price tag, especially when there weren't a lot of great games for it. Two, developers were discouraged to develop for it because people weren't buying it because there wasn't enough of a market there when you could just as easily develop for the regular controller, which everyone has.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that aspect of bundling it in to begin with, but you're right. Like, why was it? Why were they advertising this as an absolute necessity to begin with? Clearly, they can take it out now.
Yeah.
Um, I think that
Tricksters.
yeah, and I think
In
that
the
it would have
words of
gone over.
Gollum, tricksters, trickster rabbit, or what is it, tricksy hobbits.
Yeah,
That's what they are. They're
the other thing
tricksy
is too,
hobbits.
they didn't really message the new Connect as significantly different than the old Connect.
Yeah.
Like, why do you need a new one? Two, what's the benefit? Is this just an old peripheral that now you're including? That seems kind of odd to include an old peripheral for a new system, which, from what I understand, it has improvements, but they didn't really. I didn't get that message across very well. Like I
Yeah.
dug in and I heard that there was differences, but I don't know. Did you get the impression that it was going to be significally different than the one for
They,
the
they they
360?
pretty much made it sound like what they were gonna do. They made better camera, less of a space requirement and stuff like that, and they tried to make it easier for people to use. I understood that it was better. I just still didn't want it. That's my thing. But hey, I think Microsoft made the right move here. A little bit late, but I think they still made the right move. And Microsoft Xbox isn't going anywhere. I mean, this system's going to sell well. We've shown that this market can sustain two systems, if not three, very, very well. So they'll still be around. People still do their thing. I'm gonna get a PlayStation 4. That's just me. And if you want to send me a PlayStation 4, no, I'm just joking. But but I think that's gonna about do it for the show tonight.
Okay, sounds good.
And so